For a moment, I thought about grabbing a knife and ending it all right there. I could visualize it. The kitchen drawer was 6 steps from the bed. 6 steps. I knew every inch of that apartment in the dark. I knew exactly where the chef's knife was, the one he gave me for my birthday. Ironic, isn't it? The perfect gift for the perfect moment. My hand was shaking as I held his phone. The messages still glowing on the screen. "She doesn't suspect a thing," he had written to her. "To my best friend. Just a few more months and I'll get the green card. Then we can get rid of her." I could feel my heart pounding so hard I thought it would wake him up. I looked at him sleeping next to me. So peaceful. So confident. So stupid. 6 steps to the kitchen. 6 steps to end everything. But then, I breathed. I put the phone back on the nightstand. And I made the most important decision of my life. I wasn't going to be the crazy woman who grabbed the knife. I was going to be much, much worse. Because revenge done in haste is revenge wasted. And I had all the time in the world. My name is Sarah. And if you keep watching, you're going to find out that sometimes silence cuts deeper than any blade. Take a deep breath, because justice begins now. Have you ever felt this kind of rage? Tell me if you've been through something like this. The cold water from the shower hit my face like a slap back to reality. My hands were still trembling. Not from fear, from pure, distilled fury. I pressed my palms against the tile wall and let the water run over me, trying to wash away the image that kept replaying in my mind. His words. Her words. Their words together, weaving a web of lies that I had been living in for God knows how long. "She's so naive," Jessica had written. Jessica, my best friend since college. The woman who held my hand when my mother died. The woman I asked to be my maid of honor. "It's almost too easy," she continued. "She actually thinks you love her." And his response, Marcus, the man I was supposed to marry in 3 months, made my stomach turn. "I do love her, Wallet. And that citizenship isn't going to get itself, babe." Babe. He called her babe. The same term of endearment he used with me just hours before, when we were having dinner. When he kissed my forehead and said he couldn't wait to spend the rest of his life with me. The rest of his life. What a beautiful lie. I turned off the shower and stood there, dripping, staring at my reflection in the fogged mirror. I looked the same. Same brown eyes. Same dark hair plastered to my shoulders. Same face. But something inside me had shattered and reformed into something else entirely. Something colder. Something patient. Something dangerous. I dried off slowly, methodically. My mind was already working, assembling pieces of a puzzle I didn't even know existed until tonight. How long had this been going on? When did it start? I thought back to 6 months ago, when Marcus first brought up marriage. It seemed sudden at the time. We'd only been dating for 8 months. But he was charming, attentive, everything I thought I wanted. And when he proposed at that rooftop restaurant with all our friends watching, including Jessica, I was so overwhelmed with joy that I didn't question the timeline. The timing. I didn't question why Jessica suddenly started spending more time at our apartment. Why she always seemed to be there when I came home from work. Why Marcus always had an excuse to drive her home, alone, late at night. "She's going through a rough breakup," he would say. "She needs her friends right now." And I believed him. Because that's what you do when you love someone, you trust them. You trust that the person sharing your bed isn't also sharing your best friend. You trust that the woman you call your sister isn't stabbing you in the back while smiling to your face. I walked back into the bedroom. Marcus was still asleep, snoring lightly, one arm thrown over the space where I should have been. His phone was exactly where I left it, face down on the nightstand, still unlocked, still open to their conversation. I picked it up again, more carefully this time, and started scrolling. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about betrayal. This wasn't just about an affair. This was calculated, premeditated. Marcus wasn't even from this country. He was from England, here on a work visa that was set to expire. He needed a green card. He needed citizenship. And apparently, I was his golden ticket. Once I'm a citizen, I can divorce her and we can be together properly, he wrote 3 weeks ago. She'll probably be devastated, but she'll get over it. Women like her always do. They find another guy to save. Women like her. Women like me. As if I was a type, a category, a stepping stone to his American dream. I kept scrolling. The messages went back months. 8 months to be exact. Right around the time he proposed. They had been planning this from the beginning. Every I love you was a lie. Every kiss was a performance. Every moment of intimacy was just him securing his future. And Jessica was in on it from day one. "You're really going to go through with marrying her?" she had asked early on. "Whatever it takes," he replied. "Besides, it's not like I have to stay faithful during the engagement. That's what we have, isn't it?" My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady, deadly steady. I took screenshots, dozens of them. Every conversation, every plan, every cruel joke they made at my expense. I sent them all to my email, to my cloud storage, to every backup location I could think of. Then I carefully deleted the evidence that I had been in his phone, cleared the sent folder, cleared the recently accessed files, made sure there was no digital footprint of my discovery. When I was done, I placed the phone back exactly as I found it. Then I slipped back into bed. Marcus stirred slightly, his arm instinctively reaching for me. "Where'd you go?" he mumbled, half asleep. I nestled against him, my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "Bathroom," I whispered. "Go back to sleep." "Love you," he murmured. "Love you too," I said. And for the first time in our entire relationship, I meant it as a threat. The next morning, I woke up before him. I always did. I went to the kitchen and made coffee, his favorite, the expensive Italian roast he insisted on. I made breakfast, scrambled eggs, bacon, toast. I even put a little fresh basil on top, the way he liked it. When he came out of the bedroom, stretching and yawning, I was at the table reading a wedding magazine. "Morning beautiful," he said, kissing the top of my head. "Morning," I replied with a smile. I was thinking about the seating arrangement. Should we put Jessica at the head table with us, or give her a table with the other bridesmaids? He paused, and I saw it, just a flicker of something in his eyes. Guilt? Fear? Excitement? "Whatever you think is best, babe," he said. "She's your best friend." "She is," I agreed. "I honestly don't know what I'd do without her." And I didn't, because without her betrayal, I wouldn't have discovered his. Without her involvement, I wouldn't know the full extent of this conspiracy. Without both of them, I wouldn't have the perfect targets for what I was about to do. Over the next few days, I became someone I didn't recognize. On the outside, I was the same Sarah, the loving fiancé, the dedicated friend, the woman excitedly planning her dream wedding. But inside, I was someone else entirely. Someone meticulous. Someone cold. Someone gathering evidence like a lawyer building a case. I started paying attention to everything. The way Marcus's phone would buzz at odd hours. The way Jessica would quickly change the subject whenever I brought up her dating life. The way they would exchange glances when they thought I wasn't looking. How had I missed this before? Or had I seen it and just refused to believe it? Every morning, I would wake up next to Marcus and feel his arm around me, and I would remember. Just a few more months. Every time Jessica called to chat about bridesmaid dresses or bachelorette party plans, I would remember. She's so naive. And every time, instead of confronting them, instead of screaming, instead of crying, I would smile. I would laugh. I would play my part perfectly. Because I had realized something crucial. They thought they were playing me. But the game had changed. They just didn't know it yet. I started making lists. Not the kind of lists a bride usually makes. Not lists of flowers or color schemes or music selections. I made lists of everyone who needed to know. Everyone who would be at the wedding. Everyone who would witness what I was planning. Because if I was going to do this, I was going to do it right. I was going to make sure that when the truth came out, it came out everywhere, all at once, in front of everyone who mattered. Marcus's family from England, I made sure they were all invited. All travel arrangements paid for. His colleagues from work, especially his boss who had sponsored his work visa. My family, my friends, everyone from my office. I even hired a professional videographer, told him I wanted every moment captured in crystal clear 4K. "You only get married once," I told him with a bright smile. I want to remember everything. And I would. We all would. This was going to be unforgettable. 3 days after I discovered the messages, Jessica came over for what she called wedding emergency planning. She showed up with champagne and a folder full of Pinterest boards. "I know you've been stressed," she said, hugging me at the door. "So, I thought we could have a girls' night. Just you and me, like old times." Like old times. When she wasn't sleeping with my fiancé. When she wasn't plotting to help him use me for a green card. When our friendship actually meant something. I hugged her back, matching her enthusiasm. "You're the best," I said. "I don't know what I'd do without you." We sat on the couch, drinking champagne, looking through her ideas for centerpieces and bouquets. She was talking about roses versus peonies, completely oblivious to the fact that I was studying her. Really studying her. Looking for cracks in her performance. And I found them. The way she would glance at her phone every few minutes, a small smile playing on her lips when certain messages came through. The way she asked too many questions about Marcus, where he was, what he was doing when he'd be home. The way she touched my arm and said, "You're so lucky to have found him, Sarah. He's such a good man." A good man. I took a sip of champagne to keep from laughing. Or crying. I wasn't sure which. "I know," I said instead. "I can't believe how lucky I am." "You deserve it," she said, and there was something in her voice. Something almost like pity. As if she felt sorry for me. As if I was the pathetic one in this scenario. That's when I knew I had to escalate the wedding. Make it bigger. Make it more public. Make it impossible for them to hide from what was coming. "Actually," I said, setting down my glass, "I've been thinking, what if we live-streamed the ceremony?" Jessica's eyes widened. Live-streamed? Like, on social media? "Yeah," I said, warming to the idea even as I invented it on the spot. "I have so many friends and family who can't make it. And it would be so special to share the moment with everyone, you know? Make it really public." She hesitated, and I saw the calculation happening behind her eyes. Was she thinking about Marcus? About how a live stream might complicate their plans? That's actually a really sweet idea," she finally said. "Very modern." "Right?" I smiled. "I want everyone to see it. I want it to be witnessed by as many people as possible." "Well," Jessica said, raising her glass, "to your perfect wedding." "To my perfect wedding," I echoed. And I meant it. It was going to be absolutely perfect. Some people say revenge is never the answer. But is forgiveness always deserved? The wedding planning consumed the next 2 months. Or at least it appeared to. In reality, I was orchestrating something much more complex than a simple ceremony. I was building a stage. Every decision I made had a purpose. The venue, I chose the biggest one I could find, a historic estate with room for 300 guests. Marcus questioned the size at first. "Isn't this a bit much, babe? We were talking about something intimate." "But your whole family is coming from England," I said sweetly. "And I have so many people who want to celebrate with us. Don't you want to share our special day with everyone?" He couldn't argue with that without seeming suspicious. So he agreed. 300 guests it was. I hired the best photographer in the city, the one who had shot celebrity weddings and always posted the photos to social media within hours. I hired a videographer who specialized in live streaming high-end events. I even hired a sound system operator who assured me that every word spoken during the ceremony would be crystal clear to everyone in attendance and everyone watching online. Because yes, I was going through with the live stream. I set up accounts on every platform. I invited everyone I'd ever known to watch. I made sure the links were sent to Marcus's immigration lawyer, to his employer, to his family, to our mutual friends. By the time the wedding day arrived, I estimated that over 1,000 people would be watching live as everything unfolded. But planning the public spectacle was only half of what I was doing. The other half was much quieter, much more personal. I was documenting everything. Every time Marcus came home late with a weak excuse, I noted the time and date. Every time I smelled Jessica's perfume on his clothes, I took photos. Every time his phone lit up with her name, and he quickly dismissed it, I saw it. I saw everything, and I kept copies of it all. I also started talking to a lawyer, not for wedding planning, for everything that would come after. Hypothetically, I asked during one consultation, if someone married a US citizen solely for immigration purposes, what would the consequences be? The lawyer, a sharp woman in her 50s, looked at me carefully. That would be immigration fraud. It's a federal crime. The foreign national could face deportation and a permanent bar from re-entering the country. The US citizen could face fines and up to 5 years in prison if they were complicit. And if the US citizen didn't know? I asked. If they were being used, then they'd be a victim, she said. And they'd need to report it to ICE and USCIS immediately to avoid being implicated themselves. I nodded, absorbing this information. Just curious, I said. For a friend. She didn't believe me, but she also didn't press. She just handed me her card and said, if your friend needs help, tell her to call me. The sooner the better. Marcus proposed a small bachelor party. Just a few guys, a quiet night out. I encouraged him to go bigger. You're only getting married once, I said. You should celebrate properly. Invite all your friends. Make a weekend of it. He looked surprised but pleased. You really don't mind? Why would I mind? I said. I trust you completely. That last part wasn't a lie. I did trust him to do exactly what I expected him to do. And sure enough, when he left for his bachelor weekend in Vegas, I knew Jessica wasn't far behind. She told me she was going to visit her sister in California. It's last minute, I know, she said on the phone. But my sister's going through something, and she really needs me right now. Of course, I said. Family comes first. I didn't tell her that I'd already checked her sister's social media and knew she was actually on a cruise in the Caribbean. I didn't tell her that I'd installed tracking software on Marcus's phone 2 weeks earlier, using his fingerprint while he slept. I didn't tell her that I knew exactly where both of them would be that weekend. Instead, I said, have a great time with your sister. Tell her I said hi. And then I took screenshots of their location data, showing both of them at the same hotel in Las Vegas. The same room. For 3 days. I added it to my ever-growing collection of evidence. My own bachelorette party was that same weekend. My other friends, real friends, ones who weren't sleeping with my fiancé, took me to a spa resort upstate. They tried to make it fun, to make me relax, to get me excited about the wedding. And I tried. I really did. I got the massage. I drank the champagne. I wore the ridiculous sash that said bride-to-be. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw those messages. Every time someone toasted to my happiness, I thought about Jessica and Marcus in that Vegas hotel room. Every time someone said how lucky I was, how perfect Marcus was, how beautiful the wedding would be, I had to swallow the urge to scream the truth. This is what it felt like to be gaslit, I realized. Not just by them, but by my own need to maintain the illusion until the moment was right. By the time I returned home Sunday night, Marcus was already there, unpacking his bag and looking slightly hungover. How was Vegas? I asked, kissing his cheek. Boring, he lied. How was the spa? Relaxing, I lied back. And we both smiled at each other. Two people living in completely different realities, about to collide in ways neither of us could fully anticipate. Well, one of us could. I could. I had spent 2 months anticipating nothing else. At this point, I crossed a line I can never uncross. Was it worth it? The final week before the wedding was a blur of last-minute details and mounting tension. The dress fitting, the rehearsal dinner, the constant stream of out-of-town guests arriving and needing attention. Marcus's parents flew in from London, a reserved British couple who clearly had doubts about their son's sudden decision to marry an American woman he'd known for less than a year. I went out of my way to be charming. I took them to dinner, showed them around the city, made sure they felt welcomed and loved. Our son is very lucky, his mother said to me over tea one afternoon. There was something in her eyes, though, a wariness, as if she suspected something wasn't quite right but couldn't put her finger on it. I'm the lucky one, I said, and I meant it, because very soon they would know exactly what kind of man their son had become. The rehearsal dinner was held 2 nights before the wedding. 50 people gathered at an upscale restaurant. Immediate family, wedding party, close friends. I had insisted on making a speech. "I know it's usually the groom who does this," I said, standing with a glass of champagne, "but I have a few things I want to say." Marcus looked at me with surprise and what might have been nervousness. Jessica, sitting at the head table in her maid of honor seat, smiled encouragingly. Everyone else quieted down, expecting something sweet and heartfelt. "I want to thank everyone for being here," I began, "for supporting us, for celebrating with us, for being part of our journey. So far, so normal. Marriage is about trust," I continued. "It's about honesty. It's about 2 people choosing each other every single day through everything life throws at them." I looked directly at Marcus. "It's about knowing that the person standing beside you has your back, that they would never betray you, that they value you as more than just a means to an end." I saw him swallow, saw Jessica shift uncomfortably in her seat, but no one else seemed to notice anything strange. "I'm so grateful," I said, my voice steady, "to have found someone who values me exactly as much as I value him." I raised my glass to honesty, to truth, and to getting exactly what we deserve. The room echoed the toast. Marcus drank deeply. Jessica barely touched her lips to the glass, and I smiled, knowing that in 48 hours, this entire carefully constructed lie would come crashing down in the most spectacular fashion possible. The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep, not from excitement or nervousness, from anticipation. I lay in bed in my childhood room at my parents' house, staring at the ceiling, running through every detail one more time. The ceremony was scheduled for 4 in the afternoon. The venue was decorated. The flowers had been delivered. The food was prepared. The guests were ready. And I had a flash drive in my purse with every screenshot, every piece of evidence, every shred of proof of what Marcus and Jessica had done, what they had planned to do. I had written my vows, real ones and fake ones. The fake ones were what Marcus expected, sweet, romantic, traditional. The real ones were something else entirely. They were every word I had wanted to scream for the past 3 months, refined into 3 minutes of devastating truth. I had practiced them until they were burned into my memory, until I could deliver them calmly, clearly, without breaking down. Because I couldn't break down. Not yet. Not until it was done. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Can't sleep either. Can't wait to marry you tomorrow. I'm the luckiest man alive." I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back, "See you at the altar." I didn't say I loved him. For the first time in 3 months, I didn't pretend. The morning of the wedding was chaos. Hair, makeup, photos with the bridesmaids. Jessica was there, of course, helping me into my dress, arranging my veil, telling me how beautiful I looked. "You're glowing," she said, and I wondered if she could see it. Not joy, but something closer to the calm before a storm. "Just excited," I said. The photographer was capturing everything. The dress, the shoes, the jewelry, the bouquet. I had specifically requested that she photograph the details, including my phone, positioned prominently on the getting ready table, showing the timestamps of messages between Marcus and Jessica. She thought it was an artistic choice. It was evidence. When it was finally time to leave for the venue, I took one last look at myself in the mirror. The dress was perfect. White, elegant, expensive. Paid for with my own money, of course. Everything about this wedding was paid for with my money. My father knocked on the door. "Ready, sweetheart?" I turned to him, this man who had worked his entire life to give me opportunities, to keep me safe, to make sure I never wanted for anything. And Marcus had seen that, had seen my father's love translated into financial stability, and had decided I was worth using. "I'm ready," I said. And I was. The venue was breathtaking. 300 guests filled the seats, the late afternoon sun streaming through massive windows, flowers everywhere, the string quartet playing softly. I stood at the back of the aisle with my father, waiting for my cue. I could see Marcus at the altar, looking nervous and excited in his tuxedo. I could see Jessica standing on the bride's side, the perfect maid of honor, holding my bouquet as she waited for me to hand mine over. I could see the videographer setting up the live stream, the little red light indicating we were already broadcasting to over 1,000 people online. I could see Marcus's immigration lawyer in the third row, looking official and pleased. I could see everything. And everyone was about to see everything too. The music changed. My father looked at me. Last chance to run, he joked. I'm not running anywhere, I said. We started walking. Every eye in the room turned to me. Phones came out to record the moment. The live stream chat was probably filling with heart emojis and congratulations. Step by step, we moved down the aisle. I kept my eyes on Marcus, watching his face as I approached. He was smiling, but there was something uncertain in his expression, as if some part of him knew, on an instinctive level, that something was wrong. When we reached the altar, my father lifted my veil, kissed my cheek, and placed my hand in Marcus's. Take care of her, he said. I will, Marcus promised. It was the last lie he would tell me. The officiant began the ceremony with the traditional words. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. I barely heard him. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. This was it. The moment I had been planning for 3 months. The moment that would change everything. If anyone has any reason why these two should not be wed, speak now or forever hold your peace. The officiant paused, as they always do, expecting silence. And in that silence I spoke. Ido. The room went still. Every single person froze. Marcus looked at me with confusion. Sarah wet. I have a reason, I said clearly, loud enough for everyone to hear. Loud enough for every phone recording this, every person watching online, every camera pointed at us to capture. I have several reasons, actually. The officiant looked bewildered. Miss, this isn't. Let me explain, I said, turning to face the guests. Face the cameras. 300 people stared at me in shock. Behind me, I heard Jessica say, Oh God. 3 months ago, I began, my voice steady and cold. I discovered that my fiancé has been having an affair with my maid of honor, with Jessica, my best friend since college, the woman standing right behind me. The room exploded into gasps and murmurs. Marcus grabbed my arm. Sarah, stop, you're confused. I pulled away from him. I'm not confused, Marcus. I have screenshots. I have location data. I have hotel receipts. I have everything. I reached into my bouquet where I'd hidden my phone and pulled it up, showing the screen to the nearest camera. Would you like to see? Because I've been documenting everything for months. Every lie, every secret meeting, every cruel thing you said about me when you thought I didn't know. They say the best revenge is living well, but sometimes silence cuts deeper. Marcus's face had gone white. You knew. I knew, I said. I've known since the night I found her phone unlocked on the nightstand. The night you texted Jessica that you just needed a few more months to get your green card, and then you could divorce me and be with her properly. Behind me, someone in the audience said, Holy shit. Marcus's mother stood up from her seat. Marcus, what is she talking about? I turned to her, and despite everything, I felt a wave of sympathy for this woman whose son had turned out to be someone she didn't know. I'm talking about immigration fraud, Mrs. Porter. Your son proposed to me not because he loves me, but because he needs a green card. His work visa is expiring. He needs citizenship. And I was convenient. I had money. I had stability. I had a father who owns a successful business. I was useful. The immigration lawyer in the third row was typing furiously on his phone, probably alerting his superiors. Good. That was part of the plan. Sarah, please, Marcus said, and now he was begging. Let me explain. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, I said. You used me. Both of you used me. You laughed at how naive I was, how easy it was to manipulate me, how stupid I must be to not notice what was happening right in front of me. I turned to Jessica, who had tears streaming down her face. You held my hand when my mother died, I said to her. You were the first person I called when anything good or bad happened in my life. I trusted you with everything. And you repaid that by sleeping with my fiancé and helping him commit federal fraud. I'm sorry, Jessica whispered. I didn't mean, yes, you did. I cut her off. You absolutely meant it. You both did. You planned it. You executed it. And you thought you'd get away with it. I turned back to face the audience, the cameras, all those watching eyes. I let this wedding happen. I let us get to this moment. Because I wanted everyone to know. I wanted witnesses. I wanted every single person who knows us to see exactly what kind of people you are. I wanted it documented. I wanted it public. I wanted it to be impossible for you to deny or minimize or spin into something I just misunderstood. The room was dead silent except for the sound of people crying. My father had his face in his hands. My bridesmaids, my real friends, looked horrified. Marcus's family looked devastated. And Marcus himself looked like a man watching his entire life collapse in real time. Which I suppose he was. So no, I said to the officiant. I do not take this man to be my husband. I do not promise to love, honor, and cherish him. I do not want to spend the rest of my life with someone who saw me as nothing more than a transaction. I pulled off the engagement ring and handed it to Marcus. But I do want to thank you, I said, because you taught me something valuable. You taught me that I'm capable of patience, of strategy, of protecting myself in ways I never thought I'd have to. You taught me that silence can be a weapon. And you taught me that sometimes the best revenge isn't violence or cruelty. It's simply the truth. I picked up my bouquet from where Jessica had dropped it. Enjoy explaining this to immigration services, I said to Marcus. I've already filed a report. They'll be contacting you shortly. Then I turned to Jessica. And enjoy explaining this to everyone we know. Because unlike you, I don't have to hide anything. I'm not the one who should be ashamed. And then, in front of 300 people and over 1,000 watching online, I walked back down the aisle. Alone. In my wedding dress. With my head high. Behind me, chaos erupted. People were shouting. Marcus was calling my name. Jessica was sobbing. But I kept walking. Out of the venue. Out of that chapter of my life. Into whatever came next. The aftermath was, in a word, nuclear. The wedding video went viral within hours. Not the beautiful ceremony people had been expecting. The dramatic collapse of a relationship built on lies and immigration fraud. By the next morning, I was trending on 3 different social media platforms. The headlines were incredible. Bride exposes fiancé's green card scam at altar. Woman gets ultimate revenge on cheating fiancé and best friend during wedding ceremony. This wedding video is the most savage thing you'll see all year. I didn't read most of the articles. I didn't need to. I knew what happened. I was there. The legal consequences were swift. Marcus was contacted by immigration services within 48 hours. His work visa was revoked. An investigation was opened into his attempt to commit marriage fraud. He had 30 days to leave the country, and his immigration lawyer quietly let it be known that he would never be allowed back. His employer terminated him immediately, not just for the fraud attempt, but for the PR nightmare he'd caused. No company wants to be associated with someone caught trying to scam their way to citizenship on live-stream video. Jessica lost her job too. Not because of anything illegal. She wasn't complicit in the immigration fraud, just the affair. But because her employer decided that someone who would betray their best friend that spectacularly was not representative of their company values. Her social media accounts were flooded with hate. She had to delete everything and disappear from the internet entirely. I heard she moved to another state, changed her number, cut ties with everyone we mutually knew. Good. As for me, the response was mixed. Half the internet called me a hero, an icon. A woman who took control of her narrative and refused to be a victim. The other half called me cruel, vindictive. They said I should have just called off the wedding privately, that I didn't need to humiliate Marcus and Jessica so publicly, that I went too far. Maybe I did. I think about that a lot, actually. Late at night, when I'm alone in my apartment. The same apartment I used to share with Marcus, though I've since redecorated every room until there's no trace of him left. I wonder if I could have handled it differently. If I should have just walked away quietly, let them implode on their own, taken the high road. But then I remember those messages. She's so naive. Women like her always find another guy to save. Just a few more months. And I don't regret it. Not really. Because they didn't just cheat on me. They didn't just betray me. They used me. They saw me as a means to an end. They thought I was too stupid, too trusting, too weak to ever fight back. And I proved them wrong. So maybe I am the villain in this story. Maybe I'm the cold, calculating woman who destroyed two people's lives for revenge. Or maybe I'm the hero who stood up for herself when everyone expected her to just accept being used. You decide. But here's what I know for certain. I'm not naive anymore. I'm not the woman who trusts blindly. I'm not the person who puts everyone else's feelings before her own truth. I'm someone different now. Someone harder. Someone who understands that sometimes justice isn't about mercy or forgiveness. Sometimes it's about consequences. And sometimes those consequences need to be public. They need to be witnessed. They need to be undeniable. A month after the wedding that never was, I received a letter. No return address. I almost threw it away without opening it, assuming it was more hate mail from people who thought I'd been too harsh. But something made me open it. Inside was a single page, handwritten. Sarah, I know you'll probably never forgive me. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I need you to know that you were right about everything. Marcus never loved me either. He was using me the same way he used to. The moment the wedding fell apart, he blamed me for everything. Said I was the one who pushed him into the affair. That he was going to tell you the truth and call off the wedding, but I manipulated him into going through with it. He threw me under the bus to try to save himself, and it didn't even work. I lost everything because I helped him use you, and I hate myself for it. But mostly I hate that I lost you. You were the best friend I ever had. You were good and kind and loyal. And I destroyed that for a man who didn't even want me. For a green card scheme that was never going to work. I don't expect you to respond to this. I just needed you to know that you weren't wrong about him, about us, about any of it. You saw the truth, and you had the strength to act on it. I wish I had been more like you. I wish I had been worthy of your friendship. I'm so sorry. Jessica. I read the letter 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer and never looked at it again. Because sorry doesn't undo betrayal. Sorry doesn't give me back the year I spent planning a future with someone who was lying to me. Sorry doesn't return the trust one gave to a friend who was sleeping with my fiancé behind my back. Sorry is just a word people say when they face consequences. It doesn't mean anything. Not to me. Not anymore. But there was something else in that letter. Something Jessica probably didn't even realize she'd revealed. You saw the truth, and you had the strength to act on it. That's what she said. And she was right. I did have the strength. I found it in that moment in the bathroom. Cold water running over my hands, rage and pain and betrayal swirling inside me. I found it in the decision to wait, to plan, to make sure that when the truth came out, it couldn't be denied or minimized. I found it in 3 months of sleeping next to someone I knew was using me, in smiling at someone I knew was betraying me, in organizing a wedding I knew would never happen. That strength, that cold, patient, determined strength is still with me. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if it makes me powerful or damaged, victorious or vengeful. Maybe it makes me both. 6 months after the wedding, I was offered a book deal. Someone wanted me to write about what happened. Your story resonates with so many people, the publisher said. Women who've been used, betrayed, gaslit. You took control of your narrative. That's powerful. I thought about it, really thought about it. Writing a book would mean reliving everything, every message, every lie, every moment of those 3 months when I was living a double life, the loving fiancé on the surface, the investigator underneath. It would mean owning the role I played, not just as the victim, but as the architect of my own revenge. In the end, I signed the deal. Because if I learned anything from this experience, it's that silence protects the wrong people. Silence lets abusers and users and liars continue operating because their victims are too ashamed, too afraid, too traumatized to speak up. And I was done being silent. The book came out a year later. It became a bestseller. Not because the story was unique. Sadly, there are thousands of people who've been used and betrayed by people they trusted. But because I didn't sugarcoat it. I didn't make myself into a perfect victim who handled everything with grace and dignity. I showed the rage, the calculation, the satisfaction I felt when I watched Marcus's face crumble as his lies were exposed. I showed that revenge, when it's earned and executed perfectly, can feel good. And people responded to that honesty. I went on talk shows, podcasts, gave interviews. Every time the question was the same. Do you regret it? Do you think you went too far? And every time, my answer was the same. I regret trusting them. I regret ignoring the red flags. I regret wasting a year of my life on people who didn't value me. But I don't regret exposing the truth. Some people never stopped calling me cruel. They said I should have been the bigger person. That I was obsessed with revenge instead of just moving on with my life. They said that Marcus, despite everything, didn't deserve to have his entire life destroyed. That Jessica didn't deserve to lose everything. And maybe they're right. Maybe there's a version of this story where I just quietly called off the wedding, filed a report with immigration services, and moved on. Where I took the moral high ground and let karma handle the rest. But that version of the story doesn't account for one critical thing. They weren't going to stop. If I hadn't discovered those messages, I would have married Marcus. He would have gotten his green card. He would have stayed married to me long enough to secure his citizenship, probably 2 or 3 years, based on what the immigration lawyer told me later. And then he would have divorced me, taken half of everything I had, and run off with Jessica. Or maybe not even Jessica. Maybe by then he would have found someone else. Someone younger. I scrolled through social media and saw other people's engagement announcements, their wedding photos, their happy couple selfies. And I felt nothing. Not jealousy. Not sadness. Not longing. Just nothing. That scares me more than anything else. The possibility that in destroying Marcus and Jessica, I also destroyed the part of me that believes in connection. That believes love is worth the risk. That believes people are generally good and trustworthy and honest. Because what if they won? Not in the way they wanted. Marcus never got his green card, and Jessica never got the man. But in a deeper way, what if, by forcing me to become someone cold and calculating and suspicious, they took away my ability to ever be happy? What if the price of my revenge was my own capacity for joy? I think about the woman I used to be, the one who trusted easily, who believed the best of people, who thought that love was simple and pure and real. She seems like a stranger to me now, someone naive, someone weak, but also someone lighter, someone who could laugh without wondering if it was genuine, someone who could fall asleep next to another person without wondering what secrets they were keeping. I miss her sometimes, even though she was the fool, even though she was the victim. I miss the version of me who didn't know what I know now. Is that strange? To mourn your own innocence, even when that innocence almost destroyed you? My therapist says it's normal. She says grief is complicated, that I'm allowed to miss who I was while also being proud of who I became. But I'm not sure I am proud. I'm not sure revenge, even justified revenge, even perfectly executed revenge, is something to be proud of. It's just something I did. Something I had to do. Or at least something I chose to do. And I'm still living with the consequences of that choice. Last month, I saw Marcus's mother at a grocery store. Pure chance. I almost didn't recognize her. She looked older, smaller somehow. When she saw me, she froze. For a moment, I thought she'd walk away. But instead, she approached me. "Sarah," she said quietly. "Mrs. Porter," I replied. We stood there in the produce section, 2 women connected by a man who betrayed us both in different ways. "I wanted to say," she began, then stopped. Started again. "What Marcus did was unforgivable. I raised him better than that. Or at least, I thought I did." I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. He's back in London now, she continued, working in his uncle's shop. He's not doing well. The scandal followed him home. Everyone knows what he did, what he tried to do. Part of me felt satisfied hearing that. The vengeful part. The part that wanted him to suffer the way I suffered. But another part of me, a quieter, smaller part, felt something else. Not quite regret, but close. I'm sorry, his mother said, and her voice cracked. I'm so sorry for what my son put you through. You didn't deserve any of it. No, I agreed. I didn't. But I need to ask, she said, looking at me with eyes that were so much like Marcus's it hurt. Did it help? The way you handled it. Did exposing him like that, so publicly, did it make you feel better? I thought about lying, about telling her yes. It was incredibly satisfying. Watching your son's life fall apart was the best revenge I could have asked for. But something about the genuine pain in her face made me tell the truth. No, I said. It didn't make me feel better. It made me feel powerful, in control. Like I had agency in a situation where I had none. But better? No. I still hurt. I still feel betrayed. I still have trust issues and nightmares and moments where I can't believe any of it was real. Revenge doesn't heal wounds. It just redistributes the pain. She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. I thought so. I hoped there was some justice in it. Some healing. But pain doesn't work that way, does it? No, I said. It doesn't. We stood in silence for a moment. Then she reached out and squeezed my hand. I hope you find peace, Sarah. Real peace. Not just revenge, but actual happiness. You deserve that. She walked away before I could respond, and I stood there in the middle of the grocery store, holding a bag of apples, wondering if she was right. If peace was even possible after something like this. If happiness could exist in the same heart that harbored such cold calculation. I don't know the answer to that yet. Maybe I never will. But I keep trying. I keep going to therapy. I keep writing. I keep putting one foot in front of the other. And sometimes on good days, I can almost imagine a future where I'm not defined by what happened to me. Where I'm not just the woman who exposed her fiancé at the wedding. Where I'm someone who can trust again. Love again. Be vulnerable again. But today is not that day. Today is just another day in the aftermath. Another day of living with my choices. Another day of wondering if I did the right thing. Another day of knowing that even if I didn't, I can't undo it. The video is out there forever. The book is published. The story is told. And I have to live with it. We all do. Maybe I'm a villain in this story. Or maybe I'm the hero. You decide. 3 months ago, something happened that I haven't told anyone yet. Not my therapist. Not the handful of friends I still have. Not the readers who follow my social media accounts waiting for updates on my post-revenge life. I was at a coffee shop, working on my laptop, when a woman approached me. She was young, maybe mid-20s, nervous. "Are you Sarah?" she asked. I get recognized sometimes because of the book, so this wasn't unusual. I nodded, expecting her to tell me my story inspired her or to ask for a photo. Instead, she sat down across from me without invitation. "I need to tell you something," she said, "about Marcus." My entire body went cold. "What about him?" She glanced around as if checking for eavesdroppers, then leaned in. "I'm his half-sister, from his father's first marriage. We weren't raised together, but we've stayed in touch over the years. And I need you to know, what he did to you, he's done before." The coffee shop seemed to tilt around me. "What?" Before he came to America, he was in a relationship in England with a woman named Catherine. She was older, had money, worked in immigration law. He dated her for 2 years, told her he wanted to marry her, made all these plans. And then, right before the wedding, she discovered he was having an affair with her colleague, someone who had connections at the Home Office, someone who could help expedite his visa applications for international work. I couldn't breathe. Catherine called off the wedding quietly, didn't make a scene, just ended it and moved on with her life. And Marcus? He moved to America 6 months later and started over. New country, new victim, you. The woman pulled out her phone and showed me photos. Marcus with another woman, clearly years ago, looking at her the same way he used to look at me, with that same expression of adoration that I now knew was completely manufactured. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because Catherine saw your story. She saw what you did, and she wished she had done the same thing. She wished she had exposed him instead of just walking away quietly. Because if she had, maybe you wouldn't have had to go through what you went through. Maybe he would have been stopped before he could do it again. I stare at this woman, this stranger who had just appended everything I thought I knew about my own story. Is there anyone else? I asked. That I know of? No. But Marcus is good at this. He's good at finding women who have something he wants and making them believe he loves them. Who knows how many others there are that we don't know about? She stood up to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. What you did was harsh. It was public. It was probably more revenge than justice. But it put him on record. It made sure that anyone who Googles his name will know exactly what kind of person he is. It made sure he can't do this again, without someone being able to find out his history. She left, and I sat there in that coffee shop for 2 hours, unable to move, unable to think, unable to process what I had just learned. Marcus hadn't just used me. It was a pattern, a method, a literal strategy he employed to get what he wanted from women who were unlucky enough to trust him. And if I had handled it differently, if I had called off the wedding quietly, if I had taken the high road, if I had let him preserve his dignity, he would have moved on to the next victim. Some other woman in some other city would have found herself planning a wedding to a man who saw her as nothing more than a green card and a bank account. My revenge, my very public, very brutal revenge, had served a purpose beyond just my own satisfaction. It had created a permanent record, a warning, a trail that anyone could follow if they bothered to look. But it came at such a cost. To him, yes. To Jessica, absolutely. But also to me, to my ability to trust, to my capacity for vulnerability, to my belief that people are generally good. Was it worth it? I still don't know. But I know this. I would do it again, even knowing what it cost me, even knowing how it would change me, even knowing that 2 years later I'd still be sleeping alone in an apartment that feels more like a fortress than a home, still looking over my shoulder, still unable to let anyone get close. Because the alternative being the woman who quietly walked away and let Marcus move on to his next victim, that would have cost me something too. It would have cost me my agency, my power, my sense that I could protect myself and others from people who use love as a weapon. So maybe I'm not the hero of this story, but I'm not the villain either. I'm just someone who made a choice, a hard choice, a choice with consequences I'm still living with. And I have to believe that choice mattered, that it changed something, that it meant something beyond just my own need for revenge. The woman, Marcus's half-sister, had left her contact information, said if I ever wanted to talk to Catherine, the first victim, she could arrange it. I haven't reached out yet. I'm not sure what I would say. Sorry you didn't get your revenge too? Thanks for staying quiet, so I could experience this nightmare? But maybe someday I will. Maybe there's something to be learned from talking to someone who took the opposite path, who chose dignity over exposure, who walked away instead of burning it all down. Maybe she's happier than I am. Maybe she moved on, found love again, healed in ways I haven't. Or maybe she's exactly like me, scarred, suspicious, armored against the world. Maybe there's no good way to recover from this kind of betrayal. Maybe all paths lead to the same place, a life lived with one eye always on the exit, one hand always on the door, one heart always held just out of reach. I closed my laptop that day in the coffee shop and went home. And for the first time since the wedding that never was, I cried. Not for Marcus, not for Jessica, not for my lost innocence or my broken trust or my ruined relationship. I cried for all of us, for every woman who's ever been used, for every person who's ever had to choose between dignity and revenge, for everyone who's ever stood at a crossroads and realized that no matter which path they choose, they're going to lose something important. Some people say, I went too far. What do you think? The truth is, I don't know how this story ends. This might sound strange coming from someone who wrote an entire book about her experience, but I genuinely don't know if I made the right choice. I don't know if public humiliation was justice, or just cruelty dressed up in righteous anger. I don't know if I'm better off now than I would have been if I'd handled it differently. What I do know is this. I'm different. Fundamentally, irreversibly different. The woman who walked down that aisle toward Marcus was not the same woman who walked back up it alone. And I'm not sure if that transformation was empowering or damaging. Probably both. My therapist says I need to forgive myself for staying in bed next to him for 3 months after I knew the truth, for putting on a smile and planning a wedding I knew would never happen, for the calculation, the coldness, the revenge. She says I was doing what I needed to do to survive a traumatic situation. But I don't know if I agree. Because I wasn't just surviving. I was planning, plotting, taking satisfaction in imagining how it would all unfold. That's not trauma response. That's something else. Something darker. Something I'm not sure I want to look at too closely because if I do, I might not like what I see. A few weeks ago, I went on a date. First one in 2 years. A friend set it up, some guy she knew from work. Perfectly nice, perfectly normal. We met for dinner. He was handsome, polite, made appropriate eye contact, and asked engaging questions. Everything you'd want in a first date. And I spent the entire evening looking for signs of deception. I analyzed his stories for inconsistencies. I watched how he interacted with the waitress to see if he was putting on a show for my benefit. I noticed when he checked his phone and wondered who he was texting. When he excused himself to use the restroom, I had to fight the urge to see if he'd left his phone on the table, unguarded, inviting investigation. By the end of the night, when he suggested we do it again sometime, I couldn't say yes. Not because I didn't like him, I barely knew him, but because I knew I would spend every subsequent date doing the same thing, looking for cracks, searching for evidence, building a case against him before he ever had the chance to hurt me. That's not dating. That's surveillance. And it's no way to build a relationship. So I said thanks but no thanks. And I went home to my fortress apartment. And I wondered not for the first time if Marcus and Jessica actually won after all. Not the battle. I decisively won that. But the war. The long-term war for who I would become. Because they turned me into this. Into someone who can't trust. Who can't be vulnerable. Who can't take the risk that love requires. And maybe that's a worse outcome than any public humiliation could ever be. But then I remember, they did this to themselves. I didn't make Marcus decide to use me for a green card. I didn't make Jessica decide to betray our friendship. I didn't create the situation. I just refused to be a silent victim in it. My therapist talks about this a lot, about how victims of betrayal often blame themselves for the aftermath, for the trust issues, for the hypervigilance, for the walls they build, as if those things are character flaws rather than rational responses to being deeply hurt by people who were supposed to care about them. You're not broken, she told me in our last session. You're adapted. You learn that people you trust can hurt you, so you stop trusting. That's not a flaw. That's your nervous system trying to protect you. But I don't want to live like this, I said. I don't want to be this person. Then don't be, she said. Choose differently. Choose to trust again. Even though it's terrifying. Choose to be vulnerable again. Even though you might get hurt. Choose to believe that not everyone is Marcus or Jessica. And if I'm wrong, I asked, if I choose to trust and they betray me anyway, then you'll survive that too, she said. Just like you survived this. Will I though? I'm not sure. Because this, what Marcus and Jessica did, what I did in response, this changed something fundamental in me. It's not just about trust or vulnerability. It's about the person I discovered I could be. The calculating, patient, vengeful person who slept next to someone she hated for 3 months, who smiled at her best friend while planning her destruction, who orchestrated a public humiliation with the precision of a military operation. That person exists inside me now, and I don't know how to reconcile her with the person I thought I was, the person I wanted to be. So maybe this isn't a story about revenge at all. Maybe it's a story about identity, about who we become when we're pushed to our limits, about whether we can come back from that, or if we're forever changed by our own capacity for darkness. I don't have answers to those questions. I just have days, some better than others, some where I almost feel like myself again, whoever that is, and some where I look in the mirror and don't recognize the woman staring back at me. The woman who destroyed 2 people's lives and is still trying to decide if she feels bad about it. Here's what I can tell you. If you're watching this because you've been betrayed, because someone you loved used you or lied to you or broke you in ways you didn't think were possible, I see you. I know exactly what you're feeling. That rage, that helplessness, that overwhelming need for them to hurt the way they hurt you. And I can tell you that revenge is possible, that you can make them pay, that you can turn their lies into consequences. But I can also tell you that it won't fix you. It won't make you whole again. It won't give you back what they took. It will give you power. It will give you satisfaction. It will give you justice of a sort. But it won't give you peace. Peace is something different. Something harder to find. Something I'm still looking for. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Not that revenge is wrong or right. Not that I should have handled it differently. But that there's a cost to everything. A cost to staying silent. A cost to speaking up. A cost to revenge. A cost to forgiveness. And we all have to decide which costs we're willing to pay. I chose my costs, and I'm living with them, for better or worse, for the rest of my life. If this story found you, share it with someone who needs to remember that silence can be the loudest weapon. Subscribe for more stories where justice isn't loud, it's inevitable. And tell me in the comments, did I go too far, or was this exactly what they deserved? Because honestly, 2 years later, I'm still trying to figure out the answer to that question myself. Sweet dreams.